Few things are as cruel and yet beautiful as the passing of time. Every flower that blooms will eventually wither, and as the seasons pass and the falling leaves in autumn signal the end of a life, it becomes but a memory for someone else to carry. To Your Eternity captures the weight of holding on to the memories of those we've left behind like few others. And while I admire the grounded nature of Your Lie in April or Can I Eat Your Pancreas, both of which I hold in very high regard, there's a certain aspect of this struggle that could only be captured by the abstraction of fantasy. Characters whose lifespan lasts millennia allow us to experience how short life is and how long moving on can take. And while To Your Eternity isn't by any means unique in doing so, Freyren Beyond Journey's End being another, I do believe it sets itself apart due to the apathy and emotional immaturity of our protagonist, Fushi.
In the beginning, it was an orb. Not just any orb. It was an orb that captured the reflections of many things and changed its form in response. I decided to cast the orb upon the earth and observe it. After it settled, it spent some time in the form of a rock. As its surroundings grew warmer, it took on the form of moss. As time went on, snow began to fall upon the land. In the midst of the storm, a lone wolf appeared from the south. Before long, the wolf collapsed and died. The orb then took on the form of the wolf, and in doing so, it became conscious. It didn't know how to walk, but it was soon able to replicate the animal's behaviour. It moved clumsily, and it seemed to have taken on the wolf's injury as well. So it experienced its first discomfort, its first pain. However, it was able to recover within seconds. It adapted quickly. It began to walk. As it wandered aimlessly across the landscape, it experienced the cold of the wind and the scent of the snow for the first time.
Indifference. That is the defining trait of To Your Eternity's protagonist. An indifferent immortal strolling around, wanting nothing, doing nothing. When describing it that way, it could be hard to sell it as one of the most emotionally compelling anime of the last few years. But this isn't the story of Fushi. This is the story of a young boy, left behind by his fellow villagers in their frozen wasteland, embarking on a journey to join them in their search for a better place to live. It's the story of March, a young girl chosen as sacrifice to the spirit bear of the mountains, and Parona, the girl who tried to save her. It's the story of the old lady Pioran, of Tonari, of Gugu and Rin, and every other person who's left a mark on this blank slate of a living being, of everyone who made him more human. And through these bonds, the passing of time itself, and his longing for those that were once at his side, the indifferent immortal turns into someone not only capable, but afraid of his own emotion. Every arc of To Your Eternity is built around the bond formed and broken between Fushi and the arc's main character. We watch them slowly come together due to circumstance. We learn of their struggle and find ourselves captured by how their budding relationship helps in their search for who they are and what gives their lives meaning. And then we move on to the next one. We watch as the flowers bloom and wither, and when winter fades, we do it all again. And while at first it could be hard to accept that the story would just move on from the cast of characters we've grown to love, I don't think there's any better way to make us understand what's really at the core of this story. At the start of every arc, it's as if we've lost something. And we ask ourselves, why did we leave behind this cast of characters we finally began to understand and empathize with? And it happened so abruptly, like they didn't matter, as if everything they've been through was just a stopping point along a trail that Fushi, for most of his eternal life, must travel alone. But before we get any further, there's something I have to say. If you are yet to experience the emotional roller coaster that is To Your Eternity, I think you should do so, and come back later. Both its ups and downs and defining moments are best experienced on your own terms. The first episode alone is one of the best experiences I've had with anime, and a masterpiece on its own, and this series as a whole is something I wouldn't want to spoil you on. Among its many strengths, what sets To Your Eternity apart the most is its ability to consistently craft characters that show us different sides of humanity. Different struggles, different dreams, and different fates. Every single one leaving a mark on Fushi. And while many of these characters do meet tragic ends, the nameless boy who held out hope of finding the rest of his village died hopeless. The young girl whose dream was growing old never got to do so. Parona, who above all else wanted to save March, held her as she took her last breath. And Gugu and Rin never got to grow old together. But others, like Tonari or Pioran, get to die content, perhaps even happy with their lives. However, while time moves on, and for better or worse, leaves these characters behind, neither Fushi as the lead character, nor us as the viewer get to do the same, as those who've left a mark on him become a part of him in more ways than one. In the physical sense, Fushi can shapeshift into their form, carrying on their abilities, be it using a bow or spitting fire, or in other words, they have given him the strength to face his enemies. However, on the other hand, he must also carry the burden of holding on to the memory of those he loved. Despite not living for centuries, the pain of longing for someone who is now gone is one that most of us will have to face at some point of our lives, and through the abstraction of immortality, we can empathize with his pain without being reminded of our own. But life moves on, and with it, we must do so as well. But the memories of those we love don't have to be a burden on us. It would be easy to call To Your Eternity a great tearjerker, a show that lets you bawl your eyes out and wish that things could be different. But instead, I think it gives us something much more. Through every interaction, through every moment, and every second spent together, Fushi was shaped by those he shared laughter and tears with. Just as we did, because at some point, we were also nothing. Our behaviors, our mannerisms, our interests, our passions, our fears, and every other thing that makes us who we are, that makes us human, is in a way a fragment left behind by those who've left a mark on us. To Your Eternity is a story of someone searching for identity, for purpose. Fushi doesn't know who he is meant to be or what he is meant to do, but it's the people he shares these moments with that shape him into who he is meant to become. He learns, he grows, and he helps others do the same. He moves forward, carrying on the legacy of each and every person he's lost along the way. If his life is a trail he must travel on his own, then those who walked alongside him, even for the briefest of moments, were what made the path worth walking upon. The story told by To Your Eternity is hard to define through a single lens. It's a story of grief and longing for those we've left behind, but also one of finding who we are and what we are meant to do by holding on to the memory of those who walked alongside us, regardless how brief a moment it may have been. To borrow the words of a different story,
living means having bonds with others, paying attention to someone, loving someone, hating someone, having fun being with someone, taking someone's hand. That's what it means to live. If you are all alone, you can't tell that you exist. Your relationship with others is what defines being alive. I know my mind exists, since I can interact with others. I know my body exists, because others can touch me. That's where the purpose of being alive comes from. Just like we've been chosen to live out this moment, here and now.
Our lives are intertwined with more people than we could ever recall. And just as others helped us grow into the people we are today, we ourselves have left an imprint of who we are on those who care for us. And that's how we live forever, through the life of a memory.